Welcome, guys. This week we are here again on TransParents. I am your host, Amber. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on TikTok at Moonchild77. This is my lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Jenny. My pronouns are also she, her. You can find me on TikTok and Blue Sky at translovingmama.
Woohoo! And this week we have a special guest, and we are going by the alias Spartacus. And I'm going to give a brief little intro. So this week on Transparents, we're honored to welcome a special guest, a father from Colorado, who will be joining us under the alias Spartacus to protect his family's safety. Spartacus has faced immense challenges and threats following recent anti-trans executive orders, and his story highlights the real-life impact of these harmful policies. We stand with him in solidarity and are grateful for his courage to share his experiences with us. So welcome. Thank you for coming on, for reaching out to Jenny, because she immediately was like, hey, I got this dad. And I was like, she sent it to me. I was like, oh, yes, email now. Because this is really like the impact is hitting families every single day. And so this was just obviously you're just a snapshot of what is going on across the country for parents who are struggling to make sure that their kids get the care that they need. So if you want, I'll let you share a little bit, and then I'll go into the CBS interview that you were recently a part of.
Sure. So Spartacus, him, and his, and I I don't even really know how to start other than I love my child, and I've loved my child since the beginning. And I think something interesting just coming up through this relationship and this experience with my trans daughter is knowing at an early age, very, very early, that there was something different. That she was already very very sensitive to injustices and very sensitive to gender issues. She would have friends, and her other little friends would make fun of her. Is that your boyfriend? And she's like, why does it have to be like that? Why can't we just be friends? And it started out like that, and so and just, of course, just a lot of other things that just sort of let us know that that there was something different. It wasn't quite, she wasn't, and then as she started to discover and come to grips with who she was, and and came out to us, it was like night and day. That was without a doubt who she was meant to be. And I don't think it didn't take 2 seconds to go, of course, and immediately,
Right.
and then immediately the fear comes in, because the challenges that are going to come with that. And I think, I had a gay uncle, and I think everybody does, but I had a very good experience with my uncle, and with my family at that time, my grandparents at least. Very acceptance instantly, right? And of the people he loved as well. And so I think that I was always, I never had it in me to think otherwise than that I love people, and I want to love the people they love.
Right.
And so this was that's sort of how that started. At the time, we were living in Texas, and as the laws and restrictions started to become more prolific there in Texas, we were looking for our way out and where we wanted to go, and we were really starting to take a look. And I had a job opportunity that came up, and I was able to relocate to Colorado, which was just a boon and blessing for our family. So we immediately took the hit, and moved to Colorado to get her to what we felt was a safer place.
Right.
We can get her the gender care she needed. And all through this, we've done all of the things that we do to affirm our children, right? We get the
Right.
psychological care they need, and the therapy, and all the supports that they need and that we need to help them, affirm themselves in our crazy world. And so, we, unlike the idea, I guess, that, they're just handing out hormones like M&Ms, and coming home with, a sex change, it that the process is so much more involved, and
Right.
thought out, and discussed and considered, and it's not just, some kid making a wild decision and then making these, extreme moves. I mean, this is a family effort that's and conceived and loved, and because we love our children. And so, we were doing well, and uh, the community here is there's a large trans community, especially in the area that we live, and then which is why we moved here, so to try to give her as much opportunity um, to be in her community, right? To
Right.
have as much normalcy as she could, and but even still, um, the 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 threats, as you know, right, are coming in tighter and tighter and faster and faster. And
Right.
so, just like we noticed in Texas that things were changing and not in a way that we could control, we were looking for our exit, and so we find ourselves in the same situation now, 3 years later, seeing how things are just coming so quickly, and so we're trying to prepare for two things. We're preparing for our exit out, but we're also preparing to to engage the fight.
Right.
And so we were speaking just a little bit earlier before the show, but um, being torn between making sure I can establish the care that my child needs and for her safety, but I'm also the other half of me wants is just enraged by the injustice, and not just for our trans kids, but for immigrants, children's who are already suffering the horrible things I can only imagine are coming for our children.
Right. I think this is probably a good place. So for everybody who came tonight, we had posted out there that Spartacus was part of an interview. And I did not, I usually share resources, and we did not share the actual interview for safety for both Spartacus and his family. So I kind of went in and pieced out parts of the interview so that we could discuss this. So this is how the CBS interview begins. On his first day back in office, the president issued a sweeping order saying the government only recognized two sexes, male and female. The State Department promptly stopped granting requests for new or updated passports with gender markers that don't conform with what the new definition. The president says the purpose of the order is to protect women, saying, quote, efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attacks women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. I don't feel that. Do you feel that, Jenny, as a woman?
Not remotely.
Okay. I
I
figured
have
we,
said womanhood is vast enough and magical enough for all who participate.
right,
Trans women participate in that womanhood. There is
right,
no cisgender man just throwing on a dress that is participating in womanhood. And I realize that,
right,
I don't know if it is still called cross dressing, but that is still a thing. I have a friend who is a cis male. That's where he's at, and he enjoys certain clothing. And it doesn't make him a woman. He knows it doesn't make him a woman.
right,
And if tomorrow he said, JK, I am a trans woman, I would welcome him into the folds of womanhood too.
right,
There is so much more to womanhood than what is under my clothes or swimming around in my DNA. And anyone who wants to participate in that and who, takes action and becomes a part of that, I welcome in as a sister, and I love
right.
it. I do not
Okay.
feel remotely threatened. My rights are not going
Right.
away.
I mean, we talked about this. Like we'll sit in a room with 50 trans women and go to the bathroom all day long and never blink an eye. Like I'm not worried about my safety
Not one.
whatsoever.
I like getting
None.
flowers.
I love that.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we put too much on
Yeah.
gender norms. I mean, we really
Right.
do. And I think part of this is that is part of what this administration wants to do is create a very structured set of gender norms. So let's go back to those executive orders. So within it, last week, the president also signed an order aimed at cutting federal support for gender affirming care for people under the age of 19. The order covers puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, and surgical procedures. The executive order also bars some insurance companies from funding this care, prompting hospitals across the country to pause that gender affirming care for minors. Now, a group of transgender minors and their families are suing President Trump, claiming the executive action discriminates on the basis of sex and trans status. Now, the first point I want to make about this is why does the order say under the age of 19? now, first of all, because 18-year-olds can vote, 18-year-olds can hold a gun and fight for our country and for our rights. So exactly when did we start saying that they were minors? Because I have never seen a classification before saying 18 was a minor. Now you've dictated you want to stretch it just a little bit further past 18. Now you're saying 19. What's up with that? Again, trying to change.
Well, I mean, I think some of it is that they enjoy being cruel, but I saw recently where another state, and I can look up the legislation if I need to, trying to reduce the age to join a militia to 16.
Yes.
In another state that they're trying to lower the age to own a handgun to 18. So, the idea that they want to lower the age to own a gun, they want to lower the age to be able to join a militia, but they're raising the age for my child to make an adult decision at that point,
Right.
but make it more difficult and make it last longer. And it doesn't make sense. For a party of common sense, it doesn't seem to make any.
Not a lot of what they do does. So within that, so this is pretty much where the CBS interview continues to kick off. So their reporter, Sarah Herberwitz, joins, and she had come out to talk with Spartacus and the family. And the first thing they ask in the interview is, how are hospitals in Colorado responding to this executive order? It's a lot to respond to. Denver Health says it's complying with the order in an effort to maintain federal programs. President Trump says his order, quote, protects children from chemical and surgical mutilation. But Denver Health says this could put trans youth at a higher risk for depression and suicide. We spoke with one family who's feeling that risk, and they're so concerned for their safety, they don't want to share their last name, which is one reason why under the interview, they didn't even share your family's last name. And we even changed it from your first name to a complete alias to, again, put more because of the backlash that I saw on YouTube. Just with your interview. That's another reason why we're not sharing it, is because the amount of hate that was dripping off that interview was disgusting. So I guess let's start there with about how this affected your child with this executive order.
No, I think that's a great place to start because that's what started the whole chain of events. So you realize the walls are caving in, and so you're talking to doctors saying, what can we do? Can we stock up on medications? How can we prepare? And in Colorado, we kept being reassured that we're a blue state. We're gonna continue offering care. We're gonna support you. Don't worry. And so of course, that don't worry just makes me worry more. But you try to chin up and be brave for your children and their family, and then you get a message that the insurance isn't going to cover the stuff, or they can't provide the care. So we had an opportunity to get the implant that would last long enough for her to turn 18, and
Right.
then we're like, okay, so at least we had that hope. It gets denied by the insurance. So and the only reason it got denied is they said, we need something from your doctor, from your main physician, your therapist, and so all the doctors, of course, that she's been dealing with for years, getting this care, wrote fantastic letters of support, all to the insurance company, and then denied again. And the reason it was denied, and United Healthcare, as per their system, was they said they never got any of the documentation from the doctors. It was just a blatant untruth. We have 5 doctors sending in all of their statements to the insurance company to the link that they provided in email, and then we got denied because they said they never got that information. So now we're delayed another 45 days before we can run through this whole process again. And so then our only choice now is the insurance won't cover the care, and the hospital has made us aware that they're ending gender affirming care at the end of February. So now I have no hope that the insurance will ever come through in time. And so our only hope is to get her the shot that will last her 6 months. And that gives us a 6 months window to get somewhere where I can get her care. So thus get the heck out of Dodge, right? I've got to get somewhere where I can, and so fortunately I've I work in oil and gas, and so my industry is large, but it's also very right wing, so there's even balancing my personal life and what I have to do professionally when I know that there are employers who won't even look at my resume because I
Right.
support my child the way I do. But my employer is supportive and has offered to support my visa to another country, and so we're looking at that. My wife is an educator. She's got a master's degree and almost 2 decades of experience of teaching high school and at the high levels. And so we're also pursuing um, some of those avenues. And we're not just targeting one place. We're looking at the different processes for several different countries. Well, because we would like to take the first ship out, and which is one of the reasons we're heading out someplace where we can be safe and continue looking where we're going to end up finally.
Right.
Uh, um, but the and in doing this, I know we're making sure we're documenting our process, because I feel like what we're learning about how to get out or to find the help we need outside of where we are, I think will be useful information for a lot of people who are going to go through or going through what we're going through now. And
Right.
so, the visa processes and the refugee processes, there's some information even now being spread about some of these countries that there's like, you can just go and and there are some consequences in not knowing the rules. We've been talking to lawyers about how to progress in these things, and so I feel like we're gaining some knowledge that we want to share at some point,
For
once we
other
figure out
families.
exactly once we figure out what's worked, right. And also
Right.
for just other people, that if you're a teacher, there are definitely some countries that are looking for quality teachers and will help
Right.
them, and I feel like the sad thing is I think that the teachers are the most empathetic, and that's who we need the most of these days.
I think it's who they're part of who they're forcing out because they want to control what's being taught, how kids are supported, and at what level. Jenny's a former educator. My stepfather is an educator, and it's the same thing. Like, how do we protect the kids in the classroom? That as a teacher, we were always the one that, hey, if we suspected abuse, if we suspected neglect, if we suspected hunger, it was their job to go to social, to the counselor within the school and say, I'm a little worried about this student. We need to check this out. And now you're forcing teachers to be the one to put children in harm's way,
Yeah.
which is really just
It's neat to hear that though, because I'm over here like I make sure my certificate is renewed every time it's time, even though I haven't been in the classroom in about 10 years.
Mhm,
Because I'm like, I mean, I could get out of here.
mhm.
my son has a friend who is he went to Japan and did a
Yeah.
2 year
Yeah.
thing, and now he just flies back and forth and
Yeah.
he teaches in Japan.
I have a
Right.
So
girlfriend
like
that she teaches English in Japan.
right,
But see,
he
there's a
teaches
there's a
math.
process though, and if you
Yeah.
don't start
Yep.
that process soon enough, you know, and which is one of the problems that we ran into getting the passport.
Right.
We
And I was going to
we
say that I should probably go into because that was your next
mhm.
issue. Let me see where I've got that here. That was how the hospitals responded to it. Yeah. So your problem was you were okay. So you've been cut off. Your insurance says we're not going to cover it.
Right. Now, even on
You
that, we
pretty
offered to pay out of pocket, and this implant was $200,000 out of pocket, right? And we were willing to take on that debt, and but they're delaying it to the point where we even if we would take on the debt, we wouldn't get it in time to do it. So I can't even pay for it out of my pocket. I
How
won't
is
get
an
it in time.
implant $200,000? That's a home.
because
That's
we're
a
in the
house.
USA.
What are we doing
That's our
here?
health care. That's our health care.
What are we doing here? That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. That's something I was willing to do, and even but by the time February ends, it just won't happen. They it's just terrifying. The idea that that overnight they can just turn off the switch and without any regard of what's going to happen to that child. you know.
Well, to all of them. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you're impacting the whole entire nation, a whole swath of children that you're. I said said something to someone today, and I was just like, my kid's a U.S. citizen. This does not erase his status. Like, I'm not exactly sure why you think that you get to dictate what is in his pants when he's got the same damn freedoms you do. Do you want somebody telling you? No. And so, yeah, like, I'm trying rein it in. But so let's continuing into Spartacus's interview. Right before Trump took office, they applied for their passports, but his daughters never came in. They got a letter. Do you want to confirm male or female as a gender marker? And of course, we said yes because that was their daughter's. That's how she expresses herself, and that's when things got locked up. The family then tried to change the passport gender to male so it matches the immutable biological classification which is now required by President Trump's executive order, but the passport was still stuck in the system. So that was the next part of Spartacus. Like that was the next hamstring. Was here he's like, okay, so now we'll change it, and they're like, well, we're questioning it now. And we're like, forget it. We'll do what Trump wants us to do. We'll still fall in line just so we can get out of the country. And it's like, oh no, we're not going to do anything either.
Exactly.
And your kid is a citizen. That's why I made that comment. Like, your kid is a citizen. There is no reason why anyone should be denying your child their passport.
Right. And even when you're willing to comply, at that point, and
Right?
And so that was the whole process. We got the name change, and that went, and then we had to get a social security card. All of these things, like I said when I was talking earlier a few minutes ago about starting the process.
Right.
That even now, the people who are thinking, oh, I'm going to get my passport, they need to start the process now. Everything that you're thinking you might want to do, the process needs to start now, because you're going to have to wait one way or the other as you're going through
Right.
it. And every day that you wait is one day closer. And we're very sensitive to this because that's what happened to the passport. We applied for the passport. We were excited that we had just got her social security card, and we were able to put that as her identifiable gender. And we thought, and they told us there shouldn't be any problem at the passport office either. And so we went to the passport office, and we were excited that at least these things were going to reflect who she was. And we circled the F, and we sent in all the paperwork. My wife was getting hers at the same time. 2 weeks later, we get my wife's, but we get a letter saying, are you sure that this is what you want to do? Circle which one do you want, male, female, X. And we said, yes, we're sure we want female, and sent it back. And then it was stopped. And then it was just pending. So every time we called, they said, it's just in holding. We're waiting for approval. Call us again in 3 days. And so I said, you know what, let's just take a little bit of a trip. Let's just go out for a little bit, and we can get our head straight somewhere else. And so I bought us tickets out of the country to help expedite, thinking it would help expedite the decision.
Right.
And so bought the ticket, proved that we were leaving the country, paid the expedited fee, and then it continued to be held up, and time's running out. And so on TikTok, I saw someone else who said, they finally got their passport, and they had reached out to their local media and to their legislators. And I said, you know what, I'm going to give that a shot too. And that's what I did. And so the reporter who did our interview was just an amazing reporter, Emmy award-winning reporter, really went to bat for us, got a hold of our congressmen and then their specialists who works specifically for people who are having passport issues. They interceded with the state. The state then went national, and they just went through the whole process. And we're very, it didn't take 24 hours for them to start the process to help us out. And even they found roadblocks, and I think the day we found out that it was finally approved, that morning, I asked my legislator, I said, should I be considering an attorney for this? And they said back, I'm thinking so. And then 15 minutes later, it came finally approved, and we're like, oh, all right. So we got so then we're just fingers crossed, and I said, do you want us to mail it to you? And this is on Thursday, maybe. I'm sorry, Thursday, and we have 4 days until we travel. And so I said, no, I will pick it up. And they said tomorrow 9 a.m. I said, be there. I'll be there.
To
and
make
we went
sure, because
and was
I
holding our
talked with
breath
you
because there was
Thursday, and
nothing
you were
more
like,
daunting to
Friday, I'm
me
getting it in my
and got it
hands,
in
and I
our
was
hands
like, yep.
and just and have some breath of relief there that now we can move forward on tackling the biggest issue is of finding her the affirmative care that she needs.
Now, and I'm gonna add this piece because in the interview it says here, so Congressman John, I think it's Negussi, is that how it's said?
I can't hear you.
Congressman John Negussi, I think that was the name of the congressman. I'm not sure if that's the one who helped you or not, but their office, man, he got kicked out. Hopefully he'll be right back. Oh, there he is.
Welcome
All
back,
right, Spartacus.
Spartacus.
So sorry about that. Okay. So let me put up here. So what I was saying was, I think it's Congressman John Negussi. Is that how you say the name? Okay.
Something like
Their
that.
office, the same day as the interview, their office had put out a statement saying they had received similar requests to yours. After we reached out about their case specifically, the office says that they're working with them to try and get the help. So much is changing around these orders, as like you saw, hospitals, families are working to see how they'd be put into action. That same afternoon, the Colorado Attorney General, Phil Weiser, released a joint statement with 13 other state attorney generals vowing to enforce state laws protecting access to gender-affirming care. The AG saying, quote, "We stand firmly in support of healthcare policies that respect the dignity and rights of all people. Healthcare decisions should be made by patients, families, and doctors, not by a politician trying to use his power to restrict your freedoms." A statement went on to say if the federal administration takes additional actions to impede this critical funding, we will not hesitate to take further legal action. And the ACLU, Lambda Legal, like there have been several cases since this executive order has been released that they are now going, and again, those 13 states have signed on with ACLU, with Lambda Legal at the Supreme Court level. And again, I was speaking with Spartacus before, and Chase Strangio, I saw this post on LinkedIn this week that if you had a child that was being denied gender affirming care under the age of 18, specifically a child or under the age of 18, to reach out to Chase Strangio, and that's CHASE, Strangio, STRANGIO, for anyone out there, and that's with ACLU. He is an attorney with ACLU that is actually representing, one of the attorneys representing the Scarametti case for gender affirming care up before the Supreme Court now. He gave some of the opening remarks. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you're a family that's being affected by this, you should contact Chase and let him know, so you can get signed on and your voice can be heard as well. Because this is unfortunately, Spartacus, like, I hate to say it, but you're probably just a blip compared to all the families across the country that are having to suddenly make decisions that they didn't think a month ago we'd be facing.
Absolutely, and
That's big. Like, I mean, you yourself said that, you work for gas and oil. So you are probably one of the families that can make choices like that, right? Like if I were to decide to get up and leave like that with my kid, if Jenny were, we wouldn't have the funding to be able to do that. And there are lots and lots of people who are not able to leave. So then what happens to them? And it just goes to show that this impact is not about upholding a rule. It's not about protecting people. It really, these are made to harm. There is no help here. And I will say, what really irked me, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to share, honestly, the interview, when I went out there and looked at it, the amount of hate in the comments from people who are uneducated, who don't know trans people, who have no idea what we've gone through as parents to support our kids, what is now being pushed onto our kids, whether we like it, whether our kids like it or not, from the same people who are screaming freedom, freedom, freedom. Well, what about ours? What about our children's freedoms? What about our freedoms as parents to be able to support our kids the way they need to be supported? And so, like, I saw one of the comments was like, actually, it was somebody who was chastising CBS for even doing the interview. And they were like, there's 50,000 views on here and only 237 likes. Does that give you an idea what we think of your wokeness? And I was just like, again, this is uneducated people who you have no skin in the game. This doesn't involve you. It doesn't involve your children. It's not impacting your life. But some reason you feel like you need to put your opinion out there and block other families from having the care that they need. And that's the problem that I have. Like, I don't have a problem. If you don't get it, fine. Peace out. But don't block my kid. Don't block other children's kids from getting the access that they need.
Right.
And I did. I saw a lot of people who are ugly towards you, who spoke very nastily of you, who spoke very nastily of your support for your kid. And they were like celebrating that this administration was coming in and finally wiping all this insaneness out. And like, I believe somewhere in there, somebody had even was like, look, guys, this has been going on for at least 50 years. Like, go back to Stonewall. And people were like, this has not existed. And it's like, again, you try and give people, here's some evidence. It has. And there's just a certain crowd right now that are so divided, they don't want to hear it. But that puts kids and families like yours in harm's way. And here you are now under an alias trying to quickly grab a passport so you can get the hell out before our country can harm your kid any more than they already are trying to.
Right. But I only want to get out of the country. I don't want to get out of the fight because
Right?
it's too important to just think that, that I can get away and look and then watch it happen. Is just, I just can't do that. And you said something, and I think that's important to bring up as well is, I'm fortunate to have some resources and some assistance and to be able to give me options, right? But but none of those options, the visa and all of those, are still contingent on meeting certain standards and criteria.
Right?
And so I still have to prepare for those. And so one of our considerations was, a political asylum or refugee status, and looking at the different requirements for those kinds of things. And so what I would suggest is, as like I said before, is, start preparing now, the process now is to start to gather all of the evidence that you have personally of the hate that you are getting. If somebody sends you an email or
Right?
comments, you need to, as much information as you can, because one of the things you have to prove is that that you cannot go back for fear of danger and harm to
Right?
yourself. And the more evidence that you have, every hate comment that they say is just another little penny that I got that's going to help me get my child to safety. And so,
Right?
I wanted to put out there too that anyone out there who's thinking that refugee status, it's very limited for us in the U.S. because we're such a country that there's not a lot of resource out there, but the the world is paying attention and they are putting together plans to receive a lot of
Right?
us. You know what I mean? And so having this evidence and having the proof of the things, the trials that you're going through, that we can't get the health care, that that it costs $200,000, that all the mean comments that they said about me, and all of these things are the things that are going to help when that floodgate opens and that switch and just said, we can help you. You have all that to help you get through that process faster.
Right? I actually I told Jenny I didn't realize that I had another team reach out from the UK because we did a episode here, I think about 5 episodes back, on the cast review, and how the cast review in the UK is being used here a lot in the US to back anti-trans legislation. And there's not a lot of science. It's cherry picked data, and we went through this on the episode. Well, this physician who serves the trans population in the UK, because they have now used the cast review to block gender affirming care for anyone under the age of 18 over there, this has had major implications for her patients and their families. And so she had reached out because she wanted to come on and talk about the UK, what is going on over there because of the same thing. And I was just like, I told Jenny, I was like, we made international, like we're going overseas now because it's not here. We're not a bubble. It's not isolated to just the US. It's going on currently. This pushback is going on everywhere. And so I think that speaks more because I hate to say it, but it's like US politicians want us to think we all live in bubbles, and they're like, it only is going on here. It's a US thing. No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
And it's just happened in the last 4 years. No, it's not.
You know what is a US thing? You know what is a uniquely US thing is I am afraid for my daughter to go to school. That's happening.
Yeah.
But we can't deal with that because the scary trans person, all 1% of them. Anyway, sorry, thanks.
Right. Spicy comment. Jenny likes to come in with the spice. Right. We have to have our moments. But I do think that that brings it is a bigger thing that our politicians do want us to say, hey, this is just something going on here. This is teachers indoctrinating our children. No, it's not. No, it's not. Teachers were the safe space for kids, and we've now created this atmosphere now where kids are even afraid to come out possibly to their teachers. Or teachers are afraid to tell their students, I am a safe space for you, because they don't know what that pushback is going to be from either the parent or the school board or the state legislature. You just don't know. And we've confused an entire population, an entire nation on what is fact and what is fiction. And facts are every person deserves to get the health care that they need, whatever that access is. And I think you were right, what you were talking about, the team of doctors, because I was saying that CBS in those comments, what a common thread was that the parents need to have their heads examined, right? Because Jenny and I, we've heard that before, but that the parents need to have their heads examined, that we had something wrong with us for doing this to our children, and that your child needed to have a psych evaluation. And I was kind of thinking in like all those, I'm like, you obviously do not understand anything that goes on with gender affirming care because
Right.
they've probably already seen a team. And there is probably a
And
psychiatrist or
has been
psychologist as a team,
for
right? And
years.
has been. And everybody knows this because what? Oh yes, every major medical association in the US supports his care.
Mhm.
It's I hate to say it, it's Trumper's base. I just said it. Hey, TikTok, YouTube, I said it. Trumper's base is the one that says it doesn't happen. And just because you say the ocean isn't blue doesn't mean it's not blue. It's actually not blue. It reflects the color of the sky. But there you go. Yeah.
And I want to say, to another thing that just, I don't know if we're just talking about shit that makes us mad is the people who I'm not a wealthy person. I like, and so getting our children this care in the first place is not affordable, right? And so we're eating beans and rice to make sure our kids have this care, and to think that I'm gonna put my family and all of this through that she's gonna go through all of that just so she can sneak into some girl's bathroom, you know, but also to be aware that there are people who are like, like your fundraiser who need, the stuff's expensive just to live, and it's not even necessary. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
They're making it more, trying to make it difficult just for the basic things.
Well,
You
and my
know, and
one, is focused on legal resources. This is a legal fight. All of this is a legal fight, and lawyers cost a lot of money. I used to be married to one. Lawyers cost money. Their time is valuable too. By the way, Keith Connors, then go. Bye. Anyway,
I was going to say, I'm not
I had to
really
say
sure
that.
why you're here either.
I don't know why you're here.
Toodaloo.
Go away. God, I'm hateful. Yeah. So
It's
that
not hateful. It's just if you're not willing
it's
to
just like
listen, you can just go.
not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. That became mine, and I feel everything you're saying here. There are, I'm not a wealthy person either. I make good money, but my money literally all goes to my expenses. There's just not extra, and I can't imagine what parents or family members or trans people themselves who don't have I also have a master's degree. I'm highly employable, and they don't have that, and they don't have the resource, and they can't do what I'm barely able to do anything. They can do less.
right.
And all I know to do is try to be helpful in some kind of, and I'm like, if I got a platform and people listen to me and people will sit here for a minute, why not?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think, and that what you were talking about, the money aspect of that, like the treatment, that was something else that you got pushed back on within that CBS interview. And they're like, I don't want my money going to pay for this treatment. And what I was sitting there thinking was he literally sat there and said his insurance company has
Right.
denied the care. Your insurance you pay for
My
is
insurance. Right.
denying your child care.
Right.
That's not us paying for it. And
Uh-uh.
even if they did, again, I don't necessarily want to pay for erectile dysfunction drugs. I don't necessarily want to pay for insulin if you decide to overeat. I don't want to pay for your medication because you have a substance abuse problem. But I don't deny that
I don't
because
want to pay for Bible study at my church.
I
I mean,
believe
in
that
my school.
all humans deserve access to care. So if
Mm.
you need it, have it. I just don't think it's okay for other people to get nasty and pinpoint what care is acceptable to allow and what isn't. Care is care,
I offered to pay for it out
period.
of pocket, so it wouldn't cost anybody anything.
Right?
You know,
Right?
I'm not asking for a handout.
It's
You
just,
know,
I think it just goes to the crux of we've gotten so nasty. That little comment on LinkedIn, just being one piece of it. We've just gotten so free. Everybody wants to speak of freedoms, and we've gotten to a place where a lot of people within the United States feel like freedom means we can spit hate in any direction and get away with it. That there's no accountability, there's no responsibility for the things that you say or for the actions that you take. And that's not the truth. Your words have incredible impact, especially when we're talking about youth. Youth that are already typically struggling emotionally in some
right,
aspect.
right.
Why are we going to
Just
create more
stick a
harm?
finger in the wound, right?
And pour salt. Let's just pour salt in
Mhm.
it and rub it in. And
Right.
it's just kind of like, I don't understand why you're targeting. We know this population
Mhm.
struggles the hardest within our youth population. We know that. And yet we're going to create more obstacles, more chaos, more pain. How is that helpful to the children? How is that protecting our children? It doesn't. It doesn't.
No.
And it's
And it,
absurd that the argument that it does.
and
I
I
think
also, to
that's the
me,
part that ticks me off the most, and probably you, just being told as a parent what we can. And like all the laws that they spouted the last 4 years about, I need to know what's going on in my kid's classroom. I get to read every piece of paper and everything the teacher wants to give to my kid to bring home to school, but I can't go into a doctor's office and make the choice with my doctor for my kid's care.
Mhm.
Excuse me? Doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Total disconnect.
And just being, and after being ticked off for so long, eventually, when people start to go, well, aren't you a little, you know, salty? Well, I wasn't salty. You know, I tend to be a pretty empathetic person. I want to help people. I hate to see people in pain, but I've been worn down to now. Every bit of it is hitting straight to the nerve, and I have no patience. And so, I am a little um, angry. I am a little intimidating. I'm 6'2", and I, I'm just I'm going to allow that to intimidate because uh, they try to intimidate those that I love, right, and the people that I support, our community, and I want anyone to know, any person in our community, if they see me, they have a safe space. They can come and I will stand in front of them. I don't care, and that's where I'm at now. I was raised by a Marine. I wasn't allowed to sleep past 7:30 a.m. the entire time I lived under his roof, and and I think that my uh, proclivity to try to represent the underrepresented and to defend those who have less and are weaker comes from him, and I know, and my grandfather, my grandparents. My grandmother ran for school board because I have a Down syndrome aunt, and she fought for her rights. And there and ran in for the school district and got elected. My grandfather fought the Nazis, and so these are things that I find inspiration for me to engage the fight um, as fearlessly as I'm going to, as fiercely as I will,
Well,
because
it's interesting that you called back to that because we did point that out last week. Because we're kind of seeing the same page torn out of the playbook repeated. And it's like, and so now we've got, our Department of Education's being restructured, and what is history is being rewritten again. And part of the problem when we rewrite history is that we can't learn from the mistakes that we make. And while I can't say that the US made this mistake in Germany, Germany made a hell of a lot of mistakes. And Germany's mistakes were taken from our playbook from the 1800s and how we treated the black population. And I'm from the South. It, we still have a lot to address.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who says, "Oh, it's changed," it ain't changed. It didn't change. In fact, you're seeing right now how much it hasn't changed because it's right back, calling back to Stonewall. It goes back to the civil rights movement. It calls back to we are having our rights removed. We as parents are having our rights removed.
Mm-hmm.
Our children are having their rights removed, whether they're children or whether they're adults. What sports teams, where they can travel, if and when they can have care. And now you want to say I only have two children and not three? Because I recall 3 childbirths. And I really want to be refunded for every bit of money that I ever paid so far for my 27-year-old if he no longer exists. Just saying. Because how do you say that happens? What are you taking their? Is that why y'all were in the Treasury Department? Y'all were taking their Social Security numbers? Anyone? Yeah.
The one interesting loophole. So I found out the legal team that we are working with here in Oklahoma, they have actually gotten 2 passport changes for trans people since all this happened. And there is, when our governor Stitt came up with, and this was before Trump even took office, that
Oh yeah.
it was going to be, they would only allow male or female on documentation, period. No X, no whatever. And so that's where this kind of loophole lies in our state, is being like, well, we're picking an either M or F. So here you go. But I'm interested to get more, I did reach out to them kind of immediately and said, should we even move forward with this? Should we just go forward with the name change and then try to stay in stealth mode? What's the safest thing for my kid? And, they said, well, in Oklahoma, if you go for a gender marker change, and it might even be a name change, it's publicly posted. And I don't understand that. I don't know if it's to give someone the opportunity to show up and say they should.
It is. My son had my
because
son had to post his for 2 weeks at the local
Right.
courthouse.
So
And that was so that if anybody wanted to come in and object, they could.
Right. We had to do it for 5
hopefully,
days.
who's looking at these who's just walking in and being like, I'm gonna go object to Susie Smith, I don't know.
Now I'd be really worried.
But now it's a little more worrisome. People taking pictures of that list? And
yeah, they are. You can guarantee it. You can guarantee it.
Right.
As much as people are going in and trying to download, because there's lots of information. So whether you're looking at the Federal Department of Health, whether you're looking at the FDA, whether you're looking at the FFA, whatever you're looking for, if you're looking for anything about the trans community, it's been wiped, gone. And you have all these different people within these departments who are secretly downloading and trying to copy all this data so that you still have access to it from the CDC, from the FDA, from the FFA. Because, for example, the CDC had erased pretty much anything that talked about HIV, STIs, and so forth for the trans community. FFA's removed all travel. So whether it's, and they've got it for LGB, so you know where you can go if you're LGB, but anything about trans and don't go to this country because it's not safe for you. Any of these things that were there before or told you what you needed to have, what documents you needed to travel to those places, completely erased. And this is to cause more confusion and honestly, to put more people in the crosshairs, in my opinion.
For sure.
To be cruel, right.
To be cruel. The cruelty is the point.
Right, and I think they don't want to get up at the top, they don't want to get their hands dirty, so they're just trying to make it easy for those who are on the ground to be hateful and do hateful, hurtful things,
Right.
to excuse that, so that way they can say, well, we don't approve of that, so we're sorry it happened, and here's a slap on the wrist.
Right. That wasn't our intent when we wrote that. Nah.
Right.
Come on. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. They know what they're doing. And they're doing it on purpose. To confuse, to ignite hate.
Hmm.
That is something Jenny and I've talked about. Like, it just seems like the last 4 years, everybody just took a prescription pad to hate. We just amplify it, spread it, showcase it, put bright neon lights around it in my front yard. Bing, 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 bing. Look at my hate. Look at my hate. Look at my hate. I don't put it on your windshields, like slapping on the side of your car, banners across your fence. Like, that's not patriotism, guys. I know you think it is, but
It's
that's not
fanaticism.
patriotism.
It's fanaticism.
Yep. And we put in a cold personality. A couple of them. Actually, all of them. We may have just put all of them in there. But I do think that, like, what is going on for your family, again, is just a tiny little thing about what we're going to hear and see more and more of. And unfortunately, that nastiness that is on that YouTube channel, right? The pushback, because just in case any of them find this and see this tonight, just know that I have all of your accounts, every single statement. I have every single one of your accounts, so I can block them all from TransParents accounts if you decide to go off. Just FYI. I have unlimited blocks on YouTube there, so just try it if you want to. Because Jenny and I just don't put up with it. I will shut you down and shut you out. We try to educate, but if you're not wanting to listen, then we know there are plenty more who will. Because there are people out there who do care. I don't think people realize just the impact this is having on certain families, right? Because we are the 1 to 2%. And if you don't know someone, if you're not familiar with someone within the trans community, and a parent who's having to navigate all these new executive orders, and does this affect my kid? And wait, is my kid okay? It's
They're
really
blaming
hard
the
to
wrong
understand
1%.
that fear.
They're blaming the wrong 1%.
And unfortunately, I don't think it's 1% either.
Right.
Somebody recently commented to me on that. I can't even remember what video it was I made, and they said, "No war but a class war." And I hear that. I really do. I understand that we need to be going from, it needs to be less left and right, more bottom top. That said, I have no desire to stand shoulder to shoulder, side by side, fighting your class warfare alongside you when you don't think my child has the right to exist with dignity and autonomy. So I would love, Spartacus, you and I are kindred spirits here. When Amber and I first started this, my whole thing on LinkedIn is spicy compassion. I am a deeply compassionate person, but I also take no shit, period.
Okay.
And I went forward with this, especially in the last 4 years, with some forgiveness in my heart for what happened from 2016 to the next election, right?
Same thing.
People
Yep.
that maybe they didn't know what they were up against. I don't know. I went at it with all the compassion I could. I did my best to educate people. I did my best to educate my own family. These people looked me dead in the face, told me they love my child, told me they support what I'm standing for, told me that they would never want anything to happen to him, and then turned around and did.
Same thing. My entire, from my parents all the way down to my siblings, same thing. I told them, if you vote this way, this is what's going to happen to my child. And literally 2 weeks ago, having an argument with my sister, I said, why? Why did you vote for him? Why? And the border. And I said, so the border is more important to you affects you more than your niece. And she said, I'm not even going to respond with that. I'm not even going to respond to that. And I was like, well, of course you're not, because I told you before any of this went down, just like you, Jenny, you know, tell my mom, tell my sister, tell my dad, this is what's going to happen to my child. This is what you're going to do, to, you know, if this is,
Yeah.
you know,
You're
and to say that,
overreacting.
right,
That's not going to
right.
happen. My
Mm-hmm.
mother-in-law told me, no, he just wants to stop transition surgeries for people in prison. And I said, no, no.
Right.
And today, the best thing is that I'm done. It is a cutoff. I'm done. Bless you. Go figure it out. So as far as no war but a class war, if you
Right.
say so, knock
Right.
yourself out. I am all for them changing their minds. I've seen some farmers. I've seen plenty of TikToks of people who are like, well, now Trump's doing this and we all need to come together. No, because you're going to turn around as soon as the dust settles and do it again. And I'm not here for that.
Right. You know that legislation that they were pushing through about giving life sentences to immigrants that were caught trespassing?
Yeah.
Right.
Mississippi.
Right. I sent that legislation, not a headline. I sent the legislation to a sibling, and they're like, I don't believe it. I was like, how much less
What else
propaganda
do you
than,
want? What do you
right.
want?
This is straight from the government. Here they're going, here's what we want to do, you know, and
Bounty hunters, life sentences. And it was
right,
just like, a friend of mine sent
right,
me that bill last night because we were talking about it, and he's like, you haven't seen the one from Mississippi? And I'm like, no, I must have missed that one. He sent it to me, and I'm like, what is
right,
this? And
right.
yeah, it's just more of it. And Aaron
Mhm.
popped on here for 6 decades. I felt safe. During Trump's first term, I had a warning. Now I feel identified, stratified, categorized, and eventually to be removed one way or another. The kids are not okay. And so this is someone who's lived in a firm life for 60 years. Again, it's not new. It's not a trend. It's not something that's just started happening. Anything of that nature. And it is insane the magnitude to which this person and this administration is trying to rewrite our entire Constitution, our history, of our country, the founding. We, the people, by the people, for the people. Our children are the people, just like we are. So, what happened to our rights? It's okay. It's
I
okay.
can't mute it.
Oh no. And Dragon Rider, yes, this is live. This is live. I feel like there
Yes.
might have been a glitch because we didn't have comments for the longest time tonight. And so I don't,
Yeah. Well,
we usually have
also
people
people
like
are
right at the
watching,
beginning.
you know,
I was gonna say,
Hitler
it
show
is
up to
Super
the
Bowl.
Olympics.
That's
Well, it's
the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
Yeah, Super Bowl. Well,
Yeah.
ugh.
Not tuning in for that.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'll catch the best of the commercials tomorrow on some YouTube video.
Yeah.
That's all I tune in for anyway. It's the commercials. But so I guess the plan is now what your family is getting out, what, tomorrow? Y'all are going to like your temporary to get a better
Mhm.
understanding of the lay of the land?
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, we to not have the stress, you know, of you know, because I mean, I think our key word was abuse. You know, when they said, you know, it's you know, in the comments, especially when they said, you know, you're as soon as the
You're
government
abusing your
goes,
child.
right, as soon as the government though goes, all of us are abusing our children, and we're going to come take them from you. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That whole idea. And so for us, our key word was when we start hearing that, that's when we're going to go, because I don't want to be at home and they go take her out of school because
Right.
they think I'm abusing her, right?
Right?
And then what are they going to do? Something better than me? No, right? So that was our
Mm-mm.
trigger word, you know, to take action.
Um, the trans and sports issue was settled. Renee Richards playing professional tennis in the 1970s while on Earth. This topic need revisiting. You know, Aaron, I completely agree with you, but I do know for a fact that he has written one of the executive orders is for the Olympic team and another international sports association to go back and look at their rules and to rewrite them for male and female. even though both of these entities have had rules on what is considered transgender and what you needed to have as your status to participate in these events for 10 to 12 years, including also the NCAA.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying.
It's right now there's always got to be a target, whenever people need power and control, it's a quick way to do it. It's a good way to do it. Get a common enemy, get something that everybody can be on board with about being outraged. It's trans people and immigrants, and
inflame it.
And inflame
Set it on fire.
And
put
so
gas to it.
Doing that, and they just don't see that that's what's being done, because it makes sense to them. What do you mean there's more than two genders? What do you mean gender is a construct and a spectrum? I know what I am. I know what it's the exposure they've had in life. And so it makes sense to them, and it feels very right to them. They feel very right. My parents feel very right. And I have shown them things about the science. And then you get into this scary place where people want to weaponize science, which was my fear from the get-go with this. Let's find out what the science is, because maybe it'll help people to understand this isn't some kind of whatever. But then you turn around and it's just going to get weaponized. It's going to be things like, well, let's look at brain scans and let's do like some kind of chromosome and SRY, in vitro.
To prove who they are.
It's going to become some kind of eugenics thing. I mean, it's just going to weaponize. And it comes down to, I don't care why my son is trans. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I care, but it doesn't matter to me. He just is.
Well, you love him for who he is.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a big deal.
Aaron, 4 of 50 orders are trans related. I believe it's a lot more than 4. It's just what Spartacus has gone through is at least, well, you got the insurance, you had the ban on gender affirming care, and you had the passport markers. So 3 right there. And I know that there are more. I know there's the sports bans. I know there's bans on the classification of sex. I know that rewriting every raw law to say that there's just male and female. Like there's so many more.
Do
right?
What?
The students.
Teachers have to out their students.
Oh God, They're doing that here too. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that's national now. That's national now for public school.
Me. That's great.
Out your kids. Ooh.
Speak it, Aaron. Speak it. Speak it.
Yes. The religious right. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I that's the argument I love the most, because when I was, again, because I feel like impassioned by injustice, I thought that I wanted to be a minister. So I went to seminary and was in the ministry and left the ministry because the pastor of the church I was a youth minister of, my instruction was, we have enough of the colored kids. We don't need to go after any more of them.
Okay.
And so that was my exit of that philosophy. So those on the right who, I love talking to the Bible thumpers, because I spent a lot of time learning every bit of it, and I just shred them as much as I can.
I call him my second dad. Right, I call him my second dad, but my second dad actually went to seminary school and got his degree in seminary first, and then the former wife decided she didn't necessarily want to be the preacher's wife, and so he went back to school and got a math degree, a teaching degree, and teaches math. But to see him push back on Facebook, right, against the thumpers, because obviously he's been in praise and worship his entire life. He high school math teacher, so he's friends with tons and tons of students, and so they always knew that he was the safe space, right? Mm-hmm. Even though he was as Christian, right, as he was, and that he shows himself to be online with his presence. And so anytime somebody would push some of this rhetoric, he would come back with, excuse me, no, that is not what Jesus meant. Right. That's not what he would do. Why is it that you think that it's okay to spread hate in the name of Jesus.
It's all
Okay.
over now, and we've got to stop asking. That it's another one of those why questions. It's done. Christian
Right.
nationalism is a very different thing. Empathy is a sin. They went after, Bishop Buddy.
Bishop.
Yep.
It's gone. The old rules of play are out the window. And that's why I'm no longer trying to rationalize with anybody. I'm not trying to be like, well, but Jesus said, because I know it chapter and verse 2. I don't care. I'm even really done. And, people are going to hate me for it. And
I'll tell
not
you,
care.
I'll tell you this.
I am
I'll tell
done
you
with
this.
the apologists. I am done with well, not all Christians.
Right.
I am
right.
done with the, well, that's not really what Jesus taught. And my church teaches this. I don't care. When I hear a Black woman stand up and say, hey, white women, I don't do the whole, oh, but not me. I'm a good one.
Right.
Not all white women. I shut up and I listen and I accept that I have benefited. I continue to benefit, and I have upheld white supremacy, period, regardless of how much I'm working on it now. And that's what any person who is actively involved in some kind of Christianity, sorry, that's you. That's what you're doing right now too. And you don't have to like me for it. You need to sit with yourself and ask yourself why that makes you so uncomfortable. You need to either handle your people or you need to figure it out. But all of it, every single blanket of that with the little Jesus fish and the little crosses are responsible for this, period.
Right. And that's exactly what I had a shift of faith, a paradigm shift. That moment, right? That's not
right.
That's not why I got
and I'll tell you, since the new administration, and actually about a week before the new administration took office, because my stepdad has always been as openly supportive of the LGBT community now as he's always been, right, on his Facebook page. 15, 20 years, whatever it's been. His posts in the last week are being removed. If they are supportive of the LGBT community, if they are supportive of immigrants, if they are supportive of anything that's considered left, anything he's put out by, I can't remember, it's like Occupy Democrats. Any article he puts out by Occupy Democrats, anything he puts out that is supportive, Meta is removing.
Yeah. I ditched it. I completely deactivated. I didn't just.
I haven't, I'm not, you know, I'm not on there.
It is gone.
I'm not on there, but I am there, but I don't go on there because, again, my kid's family, a lot of my family is there, and a lot of my family doesn't know what my kid's status is, and it's none of their damn business. When he wants to tell them, he'll share it with them.
Right.
So I don't go on that for that specific reason. But again, because of seeing the pushback, because I saw how just with COVID, how they were responding with COVID, and with the last pushing back on misinformation and disinformation here for the last 2 years on trans people, I just had nothing to do with it. Nope, sorry, I have nothing to do with it. Hit no Christians. You're just full on tonight, Aaron. He cut us up the whole night. But yeah,
well, as per usual, we are over time. I know Spartacus probably has a lot to do tonight to get ready.
Right.
We love you.
Right.
It was a pleasure to meet you face to face. For anybody who doesn't know, Spartacus and I kind of connected on TikTok, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I'm getting a lot of pushback on this post. We could use some love in there. Sorry, my dog is putting his face all over this. And so I tried to jump on and do that, and immediately was like, hey, you want to be on our podcast? We want to talk with more parents. So thank you.
And if y'all are out there, parents, and you see this and you have a case that you want to talk about, you want to share, we gave Spartacus the same that we'll give you. You can come on with an alias. We don't even have to show you on camera if you're uncomfortable showing your face, to protect your identity and your families. But if you have something that you want to talk about, we are happy to bring it, because that is part of what Jenni and I want to show, is that this is not happening
in some kind of vacuum. This impacts.
It's not. It's happening everywhere, and this impacts kids, whether you believe it, whether you support it or not. The point is, it's doing harm to children, and that was never what we were supposed to be about as a country. It was our freedoms were we the people, for the people, by the people. Well, how exactly does that include our damn kids right now?
My kids are people.
Right? My kids are people.
They're people.
I have 3 people, not 2 people, 3 people. You can't write them out of existence just because you feel like it. So, with that being said, Thank you, Spartacus, again for coming on. Once y'all
Super.
get somewhere safe, if you want to come back, you can always reach back out to me and
We would
Jenny
love
and
that.
kind of like update us, like where y'all are at and how y'all are
Absolutely.
doing. Um, but yeah, I'm just really happy that you were able to get her passport
Very
in your
happy.
hand yesterday or Friday so that y'all
Me
can get
too.
out, right?
Me
Like,
too. Yep.
and for anybody out there who is, again, if you're affected by this, if your child is affected by this and they're under the age of 18, please reach out to Chase Strangio at the ACLU because they are looking for as many families that are being impacted by this to take this to the Supreme Court, because our children have rights
Hmm.
and they deserve the care that they need. So with that being said, thank y'all for joining us on Transparents, and
Spartacus,
we
any
will
final
see you
words?
again. Yeah, do you have anything else?
Just that, thank you so much for having me on and letting me share this. Hopefully, it will help some other people, and that you'll be seeing more of me as I think we need to see some more dads out there whipping some ass, and
We love the dads. Yes.
We love the dads. We love the
and
dads.
so, put us all together, and we're unstoppable. So you'll be seeing more of my voice as we get some more of this locked in, and know what kind of resources that we can be to help our community find the help they need.
Awesome. Awesome.
Right.
Oh, with
Definitely be
that being
keeping in
said,
touch,
guys,
and
awesome.
yeah.
Well, guys, we will
Bye.
see y'all in the next coming weeks. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I know we are going to be talking about Stonewall Riot coming up soon. And
Awesome.
we will be probably revisiting polyamory again because this is Black History Month and we want to show that intersection.
Love
So
it.
stay tuned and we will see y'all soon with that. Good
Love, hug, kiss,
night.
kiss. Bye.
Bye.